Good evening, folks. This is Deb. I'm going to say this again. I was going to take the night off, but then this mass shooting happened in Georgia. So we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. So Colt Gray, 14 years old, apparently took an AR-15 to school, whereupon he shot and killed 4 people, 2 adults and 2 kids, and wounded 9 others. He then surrendered to the school resource officers when they confronted him. He is now being charged with 4 counts of felony murder, and he's being tried as an adult. The twist in all of this is that his father, 54 years old, Colin Gray, has also been arrested. He is being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Why? Because even though his son had been on the police's radar because he made some kind of threats online, his father chose to gift him for his birthday with an AR-15. Who does that? What person wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, it's my kid's birthday today. I think I'll go out and buy him an AR-15. I mean, look, guns in this country, there are actually, legitimately speaking, more guns in America than there are people because people own multiple guns. And that's crazy talk. All right, this country is addicted to guns. And, none of this is going to stop. None of this is going to stop as long as the GOP retains power or retains any kind of level of power that allows them to block common sense gun legislation. Because J.D. Vance was asked about this incident, and his response was, unfortunately, mass shootings are a fact of life. Well, yeah, they're a fact of life in America, and only in America to this degree, because of people like J.D. Vance and people like the Republican Party. In America, the acronym GOP stands for Guns Over People, because I'm going to say it, the GOP could care less how many people die from weapons, guns. The number one killer of teens and younger children are guns, okay, in this country. And the Republican Party refuses to come to the table and discuss gun legislation that will work to prevent a situation where a kid goes to school and it may be his last day on earth. That is unacceptable. That is not a fact of life. That is unacceptable in this country. That should never be allowed. We live in a country where they regulate automobiles and drivers more than they regulate weapons and those who use them. If you are a law-abiding citizen, then you should not have a problem with things like expanded background checks, registering your gun, taking a safety course, being bound to safely store your weapon so that children can't get a hold of it. If you've got a problem with that, then you must be a criminal. You don't have a problem registering your car. You don't have a problem going to driver's ed. You send your kids to driver's ed. Guns are on the same level as weapons. People aren't driving around trying to commit mass killings with automobiles, unless, of course, you're somewhere where you're having a protest and you're on the left, and in some states you've been given permission to drive a car into a crowd without any kind of repercussion. That's a whole different story for a whole different video. But in this country, we need to stop looking at these shootings like they're individual little incidents. This is epidemic proportions in America. And it has been for quite some time. We had an assault weapons ban in this country, and I'm not going to quibble over what an assault weapon is. Let me state this clearly. Nobody in the United States of America today needs a semi-automatic or an automatic weapon. Those are military weapons. People don't need those. You want to hunt? You need a hunting rifle. You want to carry a handgun? You want to pack a pistol? No one's trying to take everybody's guns away. We're trying to minimize the opportunity for a mass shooting. And by and large, the weapon of choice is an AR-15. You know, that weapon that the Republican Party filed a bill to make the national gun and wore those little AR-15 pins on their lapels when the Democrats tried to pass gun legislation. There's something sick about that. Because at the end of the day, the Second Amendment, I'm sorry, if you read that, was never about individuals owning guns. The Second Amendment talks about a well-regulated militia. And the most conservative Supreme Court justice on the Supreme Court called the redefining of the Second Amendment to apply to individuals the biggest scam in America. Folks, we are 1 month into the school year in Georgia, and we've already got 4 people dead and 9 injured. The school year is just starting all across the United States. Let's count them up. Because none of this changes unless the Republican Party is neutered at the polls in November. All of these killings will happen. And by the way, no child should have to go to school and go through active shooter drills. When I was a kid, we had fire drills. And when I was a kid, we also had duck and cover drills because of the threat of nuclear war. You know, I can tell you, that was pretty traumatic. That was pretty traumatic for me. I was terrified of nuclear war when I was young. So I can imagine how kids must feel today going to school without knowing that at any time, this could be their last day on earth. No child should have to deal with that. And no child should have to deal with the trauma of having to have active shooter drills. That is not what schools were made for. Schools should be safe havens for kids and teachers, period. Let's get rid of the GOP so we can pass common sense gun legislation. The notion that we're going to stop all mass shootings, that's not going to happen because something's always going to slip through the cracks or someone's always going to slip through the cracks. But the idea that we shouldn't do something about this because, well, hell, we can't stop them all anyway is absurd on its face, and it is unacceptable. I will talk to you all later.